right, so this is all about turning your constraints into positives. What you need to do is think about your brain, your mind, and how the projects need to go for you and your business and your team to be successful. Yes, was their labor twice as high that first month? Absolutely. Did they need a lot more cash up front on that project to get it rolling? They did. But you know what else they did? They also finished it 6 weeks faster. Folks have to do it. And if there's strategic advantages that you can have in place to help you perform, and performing is the most important thing, more than price, you have to make sure that you can account that you can ultimately perform. And you need profitability, and you need cash, and you need the right terms to do that. When other people are around you failing and you're not, it shows that you did something different. It helps you shine. And that got them and secured them the client they worked for, who also happened to be working for many other developers and owners and had multiple projects that carried them over the next 2 years. Welcome everybody to the next episode of the Construction MF'ers podcast. I am 𝗧𝘂𝗵𝗴, founder and CEO of Mobilization Funding, and today we are going to show you how to turn major disadvantages, hurdles on a construction project into positive things that will benefit you. Such things even as gaining 6 weeks worth of labor cost back into your profit. And how could that even happen? We're going to talk to you about it now. All right, so this is all about turning your constraints into positives. How are we going to do that? Well, the first thing we're going to do is change our mindsets to there are plenty of people out there in the construction world that are getting what they want, when they want, how they want it. And if that means they're getting it, so can you. So what does that mean? Well, it doesn't mean you're going to get everything you want, but the terms you want, the types of cash flow scenarios you want, the projects you want. See, a lot of times you all might have thought that I was talking about going to your general contractor and trying to hammer them into submission. That's not necessarily what you need to do. But what you need to do is think about your brain, your mind, and how the projects need to go for you and your business and your team to be successful. We had a contractor, and we have contractors, save money all the time by managing their cash flow. Using cash flow tools, using cash flow analysis can really gain some significant advantages. How could they do that? How are these things I'm talking about, saving 6 weeks worth of labor, how can that even occur? I'm going to tell you. When you have cash flow information in front of you, I've said this many, many times, I'm going to say it again and again and again. The construction world, the contractors, the project managers, the owners of construction businesses, when given all the normal information that most business owners have, not necessarily most construction business owners, but most business owners in other industries, when they are given the same information, the same cash flow analysis, the same data points, proactively before a project starts, they are by far, hands down, the best at getting solutions and making things happen that I've ever seen in multiple industries. And that includes major companies, Fortune 100, Fortune 500 companies, the finance departments. They're great at pointing out problems. They're great at showing all the data, all the options, all the problems. But you know what they're not great at? Solutions. Fast forward to the construction industry. Here I am, taking the cash flow analysis, taking the finance terms, taking all the different data points that I've saw with Fortune 100 and Fortune 500 companies, implementing it into what I thought was the simple basic cash flow, pushing it out to our customers, our network, our friends, giving them the information they need to see up front, which we did for our own benefit as well, but it turned out it's really beneficial to the construction contractor world. And all of a sudden, they're making great decisions. So what did that tell me? All those stigmas about negative things related to what contractors do and they're poor with money. It told me all of those things. Yeah, sure, there's some people maybe upset or there's some people that can't make good decisions, of course, but it's a very small group. What I did learn though is the gross majority, 85, 90% of construction contractors, regardless of how financially sophisticated they are, and even regardless how financially sophisticated they think they are, when they are given the information in an easy to see format based off of their bid and their project, they are able to make decisions on how to make those create solutions and make decisions on how to avoid those problems, to figure out how to use their suppliers, use their labor force, use their contract labor force to make these decisions. And it's those exact scenarios that showed me and proved to me time and time again that we could lean into this world and lean into this business and help finance these folks. Because when you can create solutions off of great information in the construction world, in the cash flow analysis in the industry that you guys have to go through, you can do anything. And so by providing this information up front, you can save a lot of money and you can do things a lot more efficient. And I'm going to share some stories with you right now. Okay, so now we're going to get into the mindset aspect. First thing I want you to know, and I want you to write this down, what you don't ask for, you will not get. What you don't ask for, you will not get. More than half the time, I see folks ask for things that most people won't ask for, and at least 50% of the time, they actually get them. They might not get all of them, but they get some of them. Things like paid every 2 weeks. Maybe they're paid every 30 days, but they're allowed to invoice every 2 weeks. Maybe they'll get certain terms from their supplier when they present information that they otherwise would hide and not want to use. Maybe when they ask their subcontract labor for a discount, if they pay them early, which they're going to do either way because they need to, and they agree, everyone's happy, when you might not think that would be the case. There's so many different scenarios, but one in particular story stands out to me. A construction contractor working on a VA hospital is going to build a roof. They were really over their skis at first. They knew it was a big job, more than $1 million. They were doing a full-scale project scope. They had the material, they had the labor in it, and they were nervous. This is a few years ago when even materials were tight. They were working on building out their cash flow, and we met them. They had a great bid. They knew they had good margin, but they were really concerned with how they were going to be able to cash flow the project, and they really didn't know where to start. We built the cash flow with them. We showed them where the material costs were going to be. They had to order a lot of materials up front. They could invoice, fortunately, when the materials hit the site, but they still had to wait 60 days for payment. What they were able to do is by shifting their mindset to, how can I most efficiently do this project if I didn't have any worries about cash? Now, why would someone ever do that? Because of course you need to worry about cash. But when you challenge yourself with that different question, how can I do this job the most efficient way if I didn't have to worry about cash? It forces you to think about doing the job in a different manner. And it forces you to take some preconceived notions out. And that's exactly what they did. So when we asked them to do that and they laid the project out, the next thing we showed up was, okay, if all this material has to be pre-ordered and is going to be on site, because we need to get, we have delays and you have to solidify the price, but you also have you also have shipping time delays that you need to get products onto the site. Then if all that material's there, what would happen if you put 2 workforces on and knocked out this roof twice as fast? Well, I can't do that because then I got to pay double the labor and I haven't been able to pull any money off the project. Again, work the project in the most efficient manner as if money didn't matter. Okay, you can invoice whatever you have work complete, right? Yes, I can. Okay, great. Then build out your process, build out your schedule as if money didn't matter. And that's what they did. And what they thought was going to be a 16 to 18 week project turned into a 11 and a half, 12 week project. And what they did was they basically used their own crew, which they planned for, and then they reached out to their different sub crews. And it turns out that one of their sub crews had a little bit of downtime in their schedule, and they could put 4 or 5 guys out there. And so what they did was they built a different schedule to rip that roof off, put the new roof down, and they did it with having 2 crews that one started and the other one followed them. And they were doing a roof in an entirely different, efficient manner. So yes, was their labor twice as high that first month? Absolutely. Did they need a lot more cash up front on that project to get it rolling? They did. But you know what else they did? They also finished it 6 weeks faster. They also invoiced twice as much as they thought they were going to be able to invoice in that first month. So the job still became cash flow positive. We were able to help them with the cash they needed to front and pay for all the labor. And the materials they had pretty decent terms on that we had to make some deposits in order to get the materials in, but it still all fit inside the cash flow model. So what does that mean? It meant if by saving 6 weeks of labor, they saved an astronomical amount of money, and it increased their profitability on the project by 3-4 times. And so when you're going back to look at projects and how you're going to go about doing them and understanding the cash flow analysis, and you start asking yourself different questions, you start asking yourself, what do I need to do? What terms do I need to have? How do I need to go about doing this to do it in the most efficient manner so that you can perform but not think about cost? All of a sudden these creative solutions can come to you. And that's exactly what happened for them. And so yeah, they had a good partner. We were able to help them. They also had great partnerships in contract labor, but they were able to knock that roof out in 6 weeks less time, saving a lot of money, and on to the next job. The next story I want to tell you guys is about early purchasing of material. Now, everyone would love to have as much material purchased as fast as they can. Matter of fact, I've even been an advocate of making sure that you order materials when you need them and as close to delivery as you possibly can to invoice them, setting up your schedule of values so that you're not carrying extra material around and the cost of that, because ultimately you end up financing that if you don't have the terms. All that said, there are times where you need to order materials up front, and there are times where that's just the way the job's going to have to go if you're going to choose to do it. It's also one of those reasons why it's really important for you to know if you have long lead times on materials that you're going to have to order in advance, that's also a risk to you, and that you have to manage that risk and account for that risk that you're taking when you take that job, which means you need to be paid for that risk. So you have to build in more margin for that, because if you have to do it, so do other folks have to do it. And if there's strategic advantages that you can have in place to help you perform, and performing is the most important thing, more than price, you have to make sure that you can account that you can ultimately perform. And you need profitability, and you need cash, and you need the right terms to do that. So we met our client who had a project. They had long lead times on the materials. They were really nervous about bringing those materials in, and they were actually contemplating not abandoning the project, but not taking the project. They had still time left before they had signed the contract. They could still bail out. And it was okay because they had bid the project 6 or 7 months earlier. Material prices had moved up. The material prices in just-in-time were actually higher now than they were when they bid the project. Classic problem. And they didn't have the right terms in their contract to be able to account for those material cost increases. So by running the cash flow with them and by ordering those materials, they were able to find a supplier that could match the price they had put in the bid. Matter of fact, saving them even a little money. However, they needed to pay for those materials up front because where they were coming from, it was a new vendor, and that new vendor, although it was giving them a great price, they weren't going to give them any supplier credit. So they needed to figure out if they borrowed the money from us or somewhere else, were they going to be able to get the materials on that project and still effectively and efficiently knock it out and make the margin and the money they expected to do, so it was still a successful, profitable project. By building out the cash flow, they were able to realize exactly doing that. And they knew as materials were fluctuating back and forth that if they had all the materials on the site, they would actually be able to knock that project out even a little bit quicker and a little bit faster. But more importantly, what they were really doing is ensuring that they didn't have any delays. Now, fast forward, the project's moving along, materials come in. Obviously on a regular project, there's lots of different trades out there. And as you all know, material issues and long lead times were not just beholden to one specific scope or another. It was really happening across a lot of scopes. So here we are now, 6-8 weeks out on this job. Our client has all those materials, everything they need for the whole project, and there's multiple trades on that job that don't have all the materials they need. This particular scenario allowed our client to look great and shine and perform and do so much better than the other subcontractors they had on the site because they were able to properly plan and bring materials in. Now, the goal wasn't to say, how do I shine over every other scope of work? The goal was just to knock your job out, their scope of work, as best they could. But When other people are around you failing and you're not, it shows that you did something different. It helps you shine. And that got them and secured them the client they worked for, who also happened to be working for many other developers and owners and had multiple projects that carried them over the next 2 years. And it was that one project, properly planned for, still making sure they were successful, that when disaster struck for all the other scopes and they were able to shine, that it put them at a higher pedestal and level, and it gave them a lot of opportunity. And they were able to capitalize on that from knowing what costs they had up front, analyzing that, building in the strategy around it, and then executing and performing on that job for the best of their ability, which turned out to work out perfect for them. So we've talked a lot about cash flow tools, and if this is your first video hearing from me, you're going to hear me talk about them a lot more. And if it's one of many you've listened to, you've heard me mention cash flow tools a lot. We have a cash flow tool on our mobilization funding website. It is free. Whether you use ours or use anyone's, it doesn't matter, as long as you're getting the information, and that's what I'm trying to tell you. Ours gives a project-specific cash flow tool. You can work it right off your bid. But the truth is, any good construction accountant should have a cash flow tool that they can offer to you that you can use to give you the same information. What's important is you build a cash flow for your project so you can see these things proactively. I like to build them off of a bid sheet and off of the work schedule. Why is that? Because pretty much every contractor has a bid sheet. They have a process they like to do to bid from. They know where their costs are coming from, and they've had some math attached to where they're going to get their profitability, overhead, profit, etc. And every job has a schedule that you need to keep. And when you marry the two bid sheets, all the costs, to the schedule, that's where the magic happens. How much of the cost do I have to put into this job, invest into this job, in order to be able to run it properly? And when am I cash flow positive? And when I'm done, what is my profitability? And those are the key critical elements that a cash flow tool will show you so that you can make the same kind of decisions that these two contractors or clients of ours did, whether it's saving supplies, saving cost on labor, ordering your materials so that you can shine in advance, having the right amount of labor force, whether you plan for it up front or whether you see the opportunity strike midway through the job that you have a window opening up and you can put more labor on that job. What's going to happen? Can you quickly just modify your cash flow tool because you already have it planned and you're keeping it up to date? There's so many different ways for you to make that work. But most importantly, use a cash flow tool. Get the information in front of you. And I'm telling you right now, when you have all the right information, you will be able to make great decisions. And I say that to you because I've seen hundreds of construction contractors make great decisions. At the same point, they're telling me that they don't know finance that well, that it's not their expertise. But when I hand them and show them all of their jobs in a cash flow model and how exactly it's going to run, they make the solutions and they can point to the answers all the time. And so whether you think you're good at it or not, don't worry about it. You're a lot better than you are. Take my word for it. And lastly, you'll never get what you don't ask for. So start asking yourself different questions and you'll get a lot of different answers. And when you ask yourself different questions, you'll be able to come up with new thoughts and new ideas on ways of doing things, just like we talked about in the first story. I hope this video helps you. If it did, please share it with a friend. Let other folks know what kind of tools are out there. They're on our website. Most importantly, I hope you all have a great week, and God bless you.